finally happened. Finally, we can finally stop talking about whether or not Kyle Lewis is going to get the appropriate recognition he deserves for being the most productive defensive player in the country. Pitt's redshirt sophomore linebacker was named a first-team All-American by the Sporting News yesterday. Shout out to them for getting it right. Finally, somebody finally put Kyle Lewis on a first-team All-America list. I have been championing that all week, and I think we can finally stop talking about it here on Thursday. It's the third day in the row we've talked about Kyle Lewis being an All-American and how, obviously, and also being an American. Shout out to him for that. But we've been talking about him being an All-American all week. He had second-team honors from the Associated Press, got totally snubbed by the Football Writers, but the Sporting News yesterday put him on the All-American team. He is the 100th first-team All-American in Pitt history. The 83rd player, I want to say. Is either 82nd or 83rd. Well, darn it. My sheet's not open. Where's that page? I had them all written down. 82nd. Excuse me. The 82nd different player to earn first-team All-America honors in Pitt football history. So that's a pretty big deal. Yes, 100 times a Pitt player's been named All-American. A number of them repeated. Guys like Tony Dorsett and Hugh Green and Bill Fralick were first-team All-Americans multiple times. But Kyle Lewis adds his name to the list of Pitt All-Americans. He's the first sophomore defensive player in Pitt let me say this the best way. The first sophomore defensive player from Pitt to earn first-team All-American since Hugh Green in 1978. He's the first Pitt linebacker to earn first-team All-American status since Scott McKillop in 2008. And he's the 10th player under Pat Narduzzi, the 10th Pitt player, under Pat Narduzzi to earn first-team All-America status. Interestingly enough, out of those 10, only 4 have been defensive players. I thought that was really interesting. I think you would probably assume that most of the All-Americans under Pat Narduzzi have been defensive players, but actually only 4 out of 10. Quadri Henderson was a kick returner, an All-American quick kick returner. Dorian Johnson was a first-team All-American offensive lineman. You have Patrick Jones and Rashad Weaver in 2020 were both first-team All-America selections. They were defensive ends, of course. Jordan Addison was a wide receiver. Cal Adamitis in 2021 got first-team All-America honors as a long snapper. Kenny Pickett as a quarterback. Kalijah Cansey being the only unanimous first-team All-American under Pat Narduzzi. And, of course, he was a defensive tackle. And then Izzy Abanikanda was a first-team selection in 2022 as well. So you have 4 defensive players. You have the 2 defensive ends in 2020, Patrick Jones and Rashad Weaver. You have Kalijah Cansey in 2022. And now Kyle Lewis in 2024, for reasons that we have stated multiple times over. No one else had a stat line like Kyle Lewis. 97 tackles, 15.5 tackles for loss, 7 sacks, 4 interceptions. As a matter of fact, you could make a case that was the most sort of broadly productive season by a defensive player in Pitt history, certainly by a linebacker. I look back, and the only other linebackers I could find who had at least 4 interceptions in a season, there was only 2 that I could find. It was Malcolm Postell in 2004. Yeah, how about a throwback for that name? He also had 4 picks and returned 3 of them for touchdowns, nonetheless. You might remember that from that 2004 season. Pretty productive guy. Big outside linebacker. And then Troy Benson back in 1983 had 4 interceptions as well. Neither one of those guys matched the broad production of Kyle Lewis. Malcolm Postell had 4 interceptions, but he only had 64 tackles, 8.5 tackles for loss, and 1 sack. Troy Benson in 1983 had 98 tackles, so he beat Lewis in that regard by 1 tackle. But he had 13 tackles for loss and 4 sacks. Kyle Lewis's stat line remains undefeated, and shout out to the Sporting News for finally recognizing it. I think we might finally be done talking about this, unless Kyle Lewis gets another All-America honor tomorrow. But either way, something we've been talking about for a very long time. Kyle Lewis was very good this season, so shout out to him for getting the respect that he deserves and the honors that come along with it. So I think maybe we can finally put that to bed, but who knows? I might keep talking about it anyway. We'll start the campaign now for Lewis to repeat as a first-team All-American, to have get another shot at the ACC Defensive Player of the Award, the ACC Defensive Player of the Year awards, and then we'll also start making the campaign for Rasheem Miles to be a first-team All-American as well, because why only have 1 when you can have 2? All right, we'll talk a little more football stuff, and then we've got some other sports to get into today as well. Pitt volleyball with their Final Four match tonight against Louisville at Louisville, going on the road to face a conference opponent, somebody they've already faced and defeated twice this season. You know the old sports cliche, it's tough to beat a team 3 times in a row, or 3 times in a single season. Can Pitt get that done tonight? And then the basketball Panthers wrapping up their non-conference schedule against Sam Houston on Saturday. So we'll talk about that as well. We'll get some volleyball talk, some basketball talk, some football talk, everything you need right here on the Thursday edition of the Morning Pitt on youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. I almost tried to splice in a little bit from the Handel's Messiah, the Hallelujah chorus. I always tried to splice that in here, with the Kyle Lewis first team All-American news. But I'd probably get flagged by YouTube for like copyright stuff. Old man Handel will be coming after me, trying to get a few bucks of all the revenue we're raking in here on youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. Speaking of revenue, do me a favor, like this video and subscribe to youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. If you watch these videos every day, if you enjoy them, if you hate them, but you still watch them anyway, I don't care if you hate watch or love watch, it doesn't matter, or just, whatever's in between, neutral watch, it doesn't matter to me. Just do me a favor and like the video and subscribe to youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com, and that way we will keep you up to date on everything we're doing here with all of our exclusive Pitt video content. Of course, we have our Wednesday night live stream. We did that last night. Me and Jim Hammett hung out for an hour talking Pitt sports with you. That was a lot of fun. Hopefully you enjoyed it. I know I did. We won't have a live stream next Wednesday night because it's Christmas, but maybe we'll do one the day after. Actually, no, we'll have a post-game show next Thursday after the Game Above Sports Bowl. So we got that to look forward to, right? We'll do that instead of a live stream because we're not going to do it on Christmas Eve. We're not going to do it on Christmas Day. We'll give Jim the day off, and I will just gear up for our post-bowl game chat. Well, we'll do at least one shot, and who knows, maybe more if the situation merits. But the way to make sure you never miss any of that stuff is to subscribe to our YouTube channel and then turn on the notifications. And that way you get an alert sent to your phone every time we go live. You won't miss anything that we're doing right here at youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. So busy couple of days coming up here, really busy week, from now through next Thursday, 8 days with, as many as 4 Pitt sporting events, 4 Pitt sporting events sprinkled in there. It starts tonight, Pitt taking on Louisville in Louisville. I think it's 6:30 for first serve on that one. The Final Four matchup between the number 1 seed Panthers and the number 1 seed Cardinals. 2 teams that have seen each other a lot over the years and certainly seen each other a lot this year. This will be their 3rd match this year. They faced each other 3 times last year, split the regular season series, and then Pitt knocked Louisville out, I believe, in the Elite 8 round. The year before that, they met in the Final Four, and Louisville knocked Pitt out. Now they're meeting again in the Final Four, and they're doing so on Louisville's home court. The KFC Yum Center will be the host, or is the host, for this year's Final Four, and it's going to be a real challenge. There's that cliche. It's tough to beat a team 3 times in a season. And usually I think that's reserved for the NFL when division opponents face each other in the playoffs. And I don't know what the historical record is. I haven't looked it up. I don't intend to. If you know it off the top of your head or you can find it easily, by all means tell us. How often does one team beat another team 3 times in the same season, in a season where they only face each other twice in the regular season? Not like a Major League Baseball season where, you'll probably have at least 3 wins over most of your division opponents, and they'll probably have at least 3 wins over you. A little bit different situation here. But in this case, you've got not just the familiarity of meeting 3 times in a season, but the familiarity of meeting now 9 times over the past 3 years. Pitt and Louisville know each other very well, and it's as much of a rivalry as I'm aware of in the sport of college volleyball. There may be a bigger one out there, but I'm going to be honest, I don't care. I care about Pitt-Louisville. And I got to say, I feel like, what day was it? Tuesday, maybe Monday, we did almost like an infomercial for watching college volleyball. And I'm not going to go down that whole rant again, but I will say this, all right? If you laid out all the factors defining Pitt's match with Louisville tonight in the Final Four, right? You said conference foes, rivals, with a history of not just challenging each other in the regular season, but also meeting in the postseason, with the top team going on the road to play at the underdog's home arena, featuring some of the best players in the sport on both sides, including the number 1 overall seed, which has 3 first-team All-Americans. Like, you put all these sort of ingredients together, and I think as a sports fan, you have to be compelled by this. I don't know how it doesn't attract you to say, holy cow, this is literally the best of the best facing off against the next best of the best with some of the best players on the planet in a rivalry, teams with familiarity, not just seeing each other for the first time, but seeing each other for the 3rd time this year, the 9th time in the last 3 years. And they're going to face off on one of the team's home courts. So you're going to have a strong home court advantage and a home court cheering section, either for the home team to fire up or the visitors to shut up, right? Like you've got all these components that we love in a sports matchup, and you've got it tonight. And it just so happens, I assume if you're watching this video, Pitt is your favorite team. It just so happens to involve your favorite team. And, oh yeah, some of the best players in the world who happen to play for your team. Now, I can't sit here and claim like I'm smart enough to give you the scouting report and break down what Pitt needs to do and what, Louisville needs to do. I mean, it seems pretty simple to me. You play to your strengths. You go to, you dance with who brung you. You do the things that got you to this point, whatever you want to call it. You set up Olivia Babcock and Tori Stafford to slam the ball down, up their noses, across their noses, not up it. Or in some cases, up their noses. And I'm guessing that Louisville's got the same approach. This is going to be an aggressive match. These two teams are going to attack. There's no sitting back. I think Dan Fisher said it yesterday during a press conference that he held. We were able to view it over Zoom. He held it live from Louisville after Pitt's practice yesterday. And he said it, both of these teams like to take big hits, take big shots. Both of the, there's not a lot of tipping that goes on in this, when these two teams are playing. And so you're going to see big, aggressive, attacking styles. And, man, I think it's going to be really compelling. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. So tune in tonight at 6:30, Pitt-Louisville, for a chance to go to the national championship game, which is played on Sunday. The last time we talked about this, I said it was Thursday, Saturday. It's actually Thursday, Sunday. It's the weirdest thing with the schedule where Pitt's first and second round matchups, they were back-to-back days. And then they got to this past weekend where they played in the Sweet 16, the Elite 8. They were separated by 1 day. And now here, the Final Four in the national championship game, there's 2 days in between. I'm glad there's not another set of rounds, or else it would take like a whole week to get through it. But either way, they get 2 days off to hang out in Louisville and get ready for the national championship game on Sunday, provided they beat Louisville tonight. And we'll try and catch up a little bit on that tomorrow. Of course, we have the mailbag coming on tomorrow's Morning Pitt. So if you haven't gotten your question in yet and you want to, the place to do it is at Panther-Lair.com on our message board. It's already we already got a lot of great questions in there on the Between Fifth and Forbes message board. Go to Panther-Lair.com and check out the message board. You'll see the thread there taking questions for this week's mailbag. We'd love to have you participate. So post your question if you've got one, and we'll answer as many as we can tomorrow. Of course, on Saturday, in between the 2 volleyball matches, presuming there are 2, on Saturday, Pitt basketball closes its non-conference schedule against Sam Houston. And I don't have a scouting report on Sam Houston. I don't intend to offer one. I mean, we'll look into it a little more closely when we make our staff picks for Saturday. It's like the last game. It's like the Eastern Kentucky game, where I'm more interested in what Pitt does, how they do it, and who does it. Quite frankly, like, who might be as big a question and as interesting a topic as what they do, how they do, and who they do it against. All right, I am far less interested in what Sam Houston can do than I am interested in what Brandon Cummings can do, and Amsal Delilich can do, and Papa Amadou Conti can do, and Jorge Diaz-Graham can do. And I say those 4 guys because those are the 4 that I got to think you and I really want to see on the court on Saturday. Really want to see them. We'll talk to Jeff Capel later today. He's having a little press conference this morning, and we'll have video right here at youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. We're going to ask him, are you looking for opportunities to get those guys on the court now before the non-conference schedule ends, to give them as much time as you can, as much experience on the court for when you're inevitably going to need them during the ACC schedule, and B, to get a better sense of what they can actually offer you, how good they are, how far along they are, and whether you are going to be willing to put them into a 7, 8, or 9-man rotation once you get into the ACC schedule, or if you're just going to have go to them in an emergency situation because you don't feel that comfortable rotating them in for 15 minutes a game. I think there's an opportunity to find out more in this game on Saturday. Now, in the Eastern Kentucky game, they found out a whole lot about Brandon Cummings, but their hand was forced because Jalen Lowe took 2 fouls in the first 2 minutes of the game. And so it accomplished the goal that I know I said I wanted, the goal I had for that game. And I think I talked about it on the Morning Pitt, was I wanted to see these guys. I wanted to see some of these bench guys get some time and get on the court and show what they can do, get more experience, get more comfortable, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it happened. It happened with Cummings, but it happened with Cummings because Jalen Lowe got in foul trouble. If Jalen Lowe hadn't gotten in foul trouble, I don't know what Brandon Cummings' output looks like in that game. He doesn't score 30 points. I'm fairly confident about that. I don't think he gets the minutes or the opportunities to do so, which to me is a missed opportunity. Right, you can't take any team lightly. You can't overlook any team. You should treat every team like it's the Super Bowl, blah, blah, blah. You know what, man? That's great. You should beat Sam Houston, just like you should beat Eastern Kentucky. And you shouldn't need your starters on the court for 38 minutes to do it. You should be able to do that while getting, a little bit lower participation from Lowe and Leggett and Zach Austin, and getting a little bit more out of Brandon Cummings, Amsal Delilich, Papa Amadou Kanti, and Jorge Diaz-Graham. Now, you look at those 4 guys, and those are the 4 that I'm most interested in. Cummings, because he fills out the guard rotation. He's going to be, he's right now in the top 3 with Lowe and Leggett, and until Damian Dunn comes back, he'll remain in that role. But I think he has shown that even with Dunn back, they can go 3 guards for most of the game because Cummings is good enough to take one of those spots and play a healthy amount of minutes. And you don't have as much, you don't have a terrible drop off. He's still a freshman. He's still going to make mistakes, but I think he's shown he can play in that role. Amsal Delilich, because of what his development, participation, and contributions can mean for Pitt's, situation at the 3 and the 4, and even by extension, the 5. And I mean, we've talked about how that 5 spot is developing and what they need to do with it. If you want to move Guillermo Diaz-Graham back to the 5 almost exclusively, you need another wing to step up. Having 4 guards can help because then you can get Zach Austin, because ultimately you need Zach Austin playing the 4. If you move Guillermo Diaz-Graham back to the 5, I don't know what other option you have at the 4 other than Zach Austin. Amsal Delilich is the guy. He's the guy who could be the 3 and the 4 who could play in that role. Jorge Diaz-Graham, this applies to a little bit as well. I mostly understand I understand where fans are coming from with Jorge Diaz-Graham as far as wanting to see him more on the court, because when he got on the court, I think he's shooting like 50% from 3 or something like that. Like he's making shots. There's been a lot of times in Jorge's career when he's been healthy and he looks kind of unplayable, either on offense or defense. But right now he's making shots, which his brother cannot say. And we're not comparing Jorge and Guillermo. It's not about one or the other. But if you want to slide Guillermo out of that 4 role, which is what he's been playing all season, or at least where he's been starting. He's gotten some minutes at the 5 here, I think probably in every game. But if you want to slide him back to playing center full time, you're going to need another wing to step up. You're going to need somebody to play the 3 or the 4, in addition to Zach Austin. All right? Because you're going to need depth. You're going to need to be able to rotate. It's got to be Amsal Delilich or Jorge Diaz-Graham. And I think Delilich is higher on the totem pole than Diaz-Graham. We've seen that through his playing time and who gets the call to go on the court when they need someone to fill in there. But those guys are going to have to contribute. One or both are going to have to contribute this year, which means you're going to have to get them on the court, which means find out now. Play them on Saturday. See if you can win with those guys on the court. See if you can build a healthy lead and hold on to it with them, even though you're playing Sam Houston, Find out what they can contribute. And if they look unplayable against Sam Houston, that it changes your expectations and your plans for what you're going to be able to do once the ACC schedule comes. And then Papa Amadou Conti, I want to see him out there because I want to see if he can be a part of this center rotation. I think that center position has been lacking on a number of areas for Pitt. I don't think they're getting out of that spot what they need or want out of that spot. And then, you're going to need somebody else. I don't know if you need somebody else, but if you want to improve that position, Papa Amadou Conti could potentially be an option. I guess would be the best way I could say that. He's your only other option, I guess, is what it comes down to. Like, if you're not really happy with what Cam Corrin has been doing, if you're not really happy with what Guillermo Diaz-Graham has been doing, then it's Papa Amadou Conti, who has shown some flashes, but he's just not getting the opportunity. I think he needs to get more of the opportunity and see what he can do on the court. And so, those are the four guys I want to see on Saturday. And really, it's Delilich, Jorge, and Papa Amadou Conti, and see who's going to put themselves into the rotation, and what the rotation really is. Is it a 7-man rotation? Which I think once you get Damian Dunn back, it should be. Is it an 8-man rotation? Is it a 9-man rotation? That's going to be determined by what Delilich, Jorge, and Conti can do. And so let's find out. Let's find out what those guys can do in a low pressure setting in a game you almost certainly will win. Let's find out what they can do. Put them on the court, let them play, get the ball in their hands, give them an opportunity. And if it goes wrong, it goes wrong. And then And if it goes right, then you can maybe feel a little bit more confident about using those guys once you get into ACC play. So, but that's what I would do. Jeff Capel and I are not the same person. We'll see what Capel intends to do as that game on Saturday approaches. All right, Pitt volleyball tonight, Pitt basketball on Saturday, potentially Pitt volleyball on Sunday, and then next Thursday, 1 week from today, folks, the game above sports ball. Good times. All right, make sure you like and subscribe. Don't forget to get some questions in for tomorrow's mailbag. We will do that right here on youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. In the meantime, check out the website, Panther-Lair.com, Pittsburgh.rivals.com. Thanks so much for tuning in today. I hope you've had a great week so far. Enjoy your Thursday. We'll catch up with you tomorrow to wrap up the week. The Morning Pitt mailbag right here on youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com.